Whoa, whoa. Okay, you guys can't hear that, but I could. Samantha Hayes is very excited to tell us about Trump's tariffs. What a time to be alive. Trump enacted his tariffs on Wednesday their time. I believe it was 12 hours later. He then put a 90-day pause on the tariffs and increased China's tariffs to 125%. And I think China might have retaliated with like an 80 or 90% tariff on the US, as far as I remember. And he's lowered all of the tariffs down to 10%. So instead of the 20% we were going to get, we've now got 10% tariffs on us. So it's still going to screw over a bunch of nations around the world. The European Union has not backed down on their retaliation efforts. The stock market's bounced back half the amount of points that they lost. I think people were buying the what do you call it? The
Buying them
slump.
when they're down. You buy low and you sell high.
Yeah, but there's good reason
Finance.
to think that over the next, I think someone said 2 weeks, because of the well, I suppose over the next 90 days until we can figure out what the hell's going on, it's going to be quite unstable, and there's going to be a lack of business confidence, obviously, because people can't plan ahead if they don't know what their profits or costs and overheads are going to be, import and export costs, all that sort of stuff. But we can let Samantha Hayes in her beautiful red suit chat us through a wee bit of what the hell is going on overseas.
Well, after a week of market mayhem, Donald Trump has finally blinked, announcing a 90-day pause on all of the higher tariffs, except for China. The universal 10% tariff will remain in place, but news of the pause sent stocks soaring. The Dow rising 7.9%, the Nasdaq up.
FYI, not that anyone cares. I have very, very tiny shares because I can't really afford to put that much in shares. It's for funsies, let's be honest. Earlier this year, I put money into, like, I don't know, $50 into Netflix, and then I hadn't checked my stocks for a while. And I saw that the Netflix stock was up, like, I don't know how much, but it was jumped up quite a bit over the year. I'm like, sweet. Nice. I don't know how much I lost over the last 2 days, but hey.
Netflix, yeah, I keep on toying with the idea of doing sharesies, and I saw it because one of my workmates does. And I saw a stuff article about apparently there's been record numbers of people sort of signing up for sharesies. But then that could be money that I spend on physical things like records or sweets from the shop.
No, it's about the
more tangible investments.
It's free money over a while. It's free money. Start investing in your future. You're older than me. You're going to retire soon.
I keep on thinking of that South Park episode, Truth Be Told, where like they're investing it in index funds and it's gone. Your money's gone. Get out.
I imagine the episode came out sometime around 2008.
Yes, it did.
All right, let's continue.
Up 12.2%, while our own NZX 50 closed just over an hour ago, up 3.3%. But it was falls in the US bond market that prompted Trump's change of tune as a sharp sell-off raised concerns about America's ability to honour its debts. The chaos is far from over, though. Trump escalated his trade war with China, raising its tariffs to a new high of 125% after Beijing raised its tariffs on American goods to 84%. Senior reporter Juliet Speedy wraps up another head-spinning day for the global economy.
After his screeching tariff U-turn, Donald Trump was trying to take credit for the recovery from a crash he engineered, boasting about the stock market soaring 7% today. On news, he'd lifted tariffs for many countries.
Yeah, that's up almost 7 points. 2,500 points. Nobody's ever heard of it. It's going to be a record.
Nobody's ever heard of it, he said, but no one has heard of trade policy that appears to be set on a whim. After insisting for days he would hold firm on his aggressive trade strategy, most commentators believe Trump caved in the face of alarming disruptions in the huge market for US Treasury bonds.
US leaders.
Did you see those numbers?
Yeah, they're big and very red.
Damn. I feel like, you know how in Speed, not in Speed, you know, when talking about, it's not the drug, you know, in Arrows, okay, you know, when you're playing The Sims, it's probably a bit, I was going to use a gaming analogy and I was like, no one's going to get that. You know, when you're playing The Sims and you're on 1 speed and then you go to 2 speed and then you go to 3 speed and you get 3 arrows? I feel like they need that on this graphic where you've got, you know, it's down, it's not too bad, and it's double down, and then it's triple down.
Look, if those numbers go down enough, seeing there's people throwing themselves out of windows. So there's that. The conversation about people dumping the US Treasury bonds, that's really interesting. Because one of the what I read was one of the countries that has been ditching them like nobody's business is a US ally, Japan. They hold a lot of them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're fucking out. We're shedding this," and that. So your treasury bonds are like your real long term. Like you are betting in the success of a country, a whole country's economy. And like if you pick a really stable, preeminent country like the US, you're sort of going, well, this is my piggy bank. You guys are always reliable. You always make good choices, and if you don't, then over the long run, like it's going to work out. You see countries start to ditch those bonds. That's them going, oh yeah, no. I don't. You're not dragging me down as well. Yeah, an enormous amount of US bonds. So yeah, it's a predictable outcome when your leader just decides to sow absolute chaos. So yeah, like you got two of the biggest economies in the world going essentially to war with each other over trade, and you know it seems to be really anchored around the idea of the trade deficit, and that points a finger at exactly what this is about. There has always been an enormous trade deficit between the US and China because China manufactures an enormous amount of goods. And America was happy to have that continue as long as things were cheap. But China's also gone through a massive modernization of their industry, their transport, their energy production. You know, I always wondered about Elon's involvement in this being an electric car manufacturer when so many Chinese brands have essentially turbocharged their research and development, putting out like quite good product now. And that's why he wanted to punish them and put big Chinese tariffs on to keep the Chinese manufacturers out of the US. He can't do it anywhere else, but he can control it there.
All right, we'll carry on. See what else there is.
US leaders getting in his ear, and also business leaders and getting in his ear and saying, you know, you're doing completely the wrong thing here. And if you don't do something, you know, the global market may collapse.
News rippled around the world that his tariffs were falling to 10% for all countries except for China, which increased to 125%.
A deal could be made with every one of them. A deal's going to be made with China. A deal's going to be made with every one of them. And there'll be fair deals. I just want fair.
Within seconds of the news, the stock market soared. Apple up 15%, Nike 11%, and Tesla an astonishing 22% in one day.
Still down 7.2% year to date in the S&P, and it was up 23% last year. So, you know, it's given up a lot of the gain it had for the last 2 years.
So to me, it wouldn't be surprising at all if we were to see most of today's gains, which look like sort of a slightly emotional relief rally, undone in the next few weeks.
As Trump abruptly changed course via social media, his highest ranking trade official was being grilled in Congress.
I think it was not in Congress. I think so. His Treasury Secretary of the Treasury Secretary, was being grilled by the media. And you know the PR lady who's just like at everything, the young one who's kind of scary.
Yeah.
she eventually, he didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. He didn't know what the hell was going on. I think he was only just recently briefed about it. But eventually she came in, she was like, okay, he's answered enough. We all know that Trump did the right thing. He was showing his force of power. Everyone listened and it was fine. Okay, bye. And it's like, the poor guy got roasted. I don't think it's the same guy here, but it could be.
Apparently unaware of what was happening.
How many weeks?
I understand it's 90 days. I haven't spoken to the president since I've
So
been.
the trade representative hasn't spoken to the president of the United States about a global reordering of trade.
Yes, I have. I've
And
just
yet
been in the hearing with you, sir.
But yet he announced it on a tweet. WTF? Who's in charge?
The president of the United States is in charge.
The president sure did take charge.
Oh, I haven't seen that. That's even worse. Oh, he's like, yeah, well, I just found out, you just told me, I'm here, you just told me. What the fuck?
Charge of global trade 1 week ago with his so-called Liberation Day, unveiling sweeping punitive tariffs that sent shockwaves around the world.
You think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see.
But the numbers on these charts soon
love this
changed.
graphic.
Later, he announced a 50% charge for China, dismissing the idea it would drive trade partners into the hands of the Chinese.
I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it.
Boasting only yesterday about it working.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass.
But there was no call from Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Their relationship soured over COVID, which Trump called the China virus, and accused them of unleashing on the world.
I get along with President Xi. I have over the years, but you just when COVID came, that was the end. That was it. That was called the bridge too far.
The world's two largest economies.
Yeah, well, you pretty much get the gist of what's going on. So, yeah, fun times to be an American, fun times to be the rest of the world, but I think too much too late, maybe? I don't know.
I do notice that there is a Trump supporter in our chat tonight, which is just
good on them.
amusing. Just hitting all the talking points of like, oh, this is so he can get rid of income tax for Americans. Look, just one thing on that. Don't equate their income tax structure to like how things work here without income tax, because you have state and federal taxes. Like there's not a system or an idea that the Americans have come across that they haven't made worse, corrupted, or completely broken. Like it's just madness. Like they're not going to come out on top of this. Like there's a reason that countries, and especially the Americans, have worked so hard for so long to remove barriers to trade. Well, there's a reason that it's a global economy. It's one of the main reasons that the EU exists, was that they wanted to band together economically to counter how powerful the US was economically and how powerful China was economically. So global trade is good. And for us here in a trading nation, we export a lot, we have to import a lot because we're a little island and that sort of thing. You can't cheerlead what Trump's doing. The instability is not good for us. The tariffs are not good for us. The way that we may be after American goods, and it's not good for us. None of this is. I cannot understand a New Zealander who is a Trump cheerleader. It makes no sense. The only reaction here is to look on in horror and go, man, remember those good times? Do you remember how dumb we used to think George Bush was? Because he'd get his words mixed up and stuff. Do you remember how people...
I suppose we did.
Yeah, because he used to
thing.
get his words all mixed up. He was this goofy little guy, and kind of amusing. And it's amusing as long as you ignore what he did in Iraq. But shush. Hey,
it's because they bombed the Twin Towers. It's not because, it was retaliatory at all. It was purely because of the Twin Towers.
All of that was goofy. This is something else. This is something we haven't seen. Like you look at politics here, overseas, different countries, all of that sort of stuff. You can quite rightly go, that's a bad decision. But this is just, it feels like you're in a bus where the driver's had a stroke. And it just, I can't get out of my seat. There's nothing I can do. It's just crazy. And I think it comes down to, in his first term, he still had people around him that were kind of trying to just, like when you go bowling and you put those bigger inflatable tubes in so you don't get a gutter ball. I feel like he had a lot of that going on. And through his first term, he sacked people, or people went, you know what, I don't want to be associated with this. I want to go and play golf and just fucking, I'm out. He doesn't have those protections anymore. He has MAGA cultists and people that think that they can spin this in their favor. And he's just reacting on a whim against all advice. And I know I've said that for our local politicians, it seems like national react against all advice. This seems like 10 times worse. This isn't just a fundamental disagreement of how economics works. This is ignoring it. This is ignoring all historical markers. I saw an economist, I think it was on NBC, describe him as the economic equivalent of a suicide bomber. And when I'm sitting here cheerleading China, going, yeah, boy, get him. You know, don't back down. That's not a good thing.
It was a fantastic Vosh, V-A-U-S-H. If you watch him, he's an American commentator on, political junkie type. He's great. If you haven't seen his stuff, but I can't find the exact quote. I have to find the video where he actually reads out the quote from the Michael Cohen book, sort of shitting all over Trump after he backstabbed him. His ex-lawyer, right? It was his ex-lawyer, or his there was a quote or a paragraph or something about the conversation he'd had with him about his thoughts on the economy and his thoughts on people. And it shows a real insight as to how he thinks about the world. If I can find the exact video that I watched earlier today, I'll send it to you guys to have a listen of it. But yeah, he's got some strange views. But that's the sort of people that are no longer around him to like have those conversations with him and challenge him. He just got rid of those people.
There's a through line, though. All of the people that have been cast aside in his wake that have come out, and yeah, you could go, look, they're people that Trump shit on, so of course they're angry. But there is a common theme that this guy shoots from the hip, is unpredictable. He does things on a whim. He does things because he's the boss. And it's not like I saw I think it was a comment thread from someone that used to work on The Apprentice, and they were saying, look, one of the things that we learned doing The Apprentice is Trump might decide just to fire someone because he doesn't, fire a contestant because he just doesn't like their face, and the problem would be is that person might have won all of the challenges, and all of the footage that they have from that week is that this person's being really good and successful and being a team player, all of these good things. And then Trump goes, you're fired, I don't like you. And then they have to go back through the footage and basically just finagle it to make this person look like they were shit that week. And he's telling all of these stories just about how they had to manage him through the production of that show. And his final paragraph on that is like, I am taking strange levels of comfort knowing that it's exactly the same in the White House. And now they're having to deal with the same things. And that's terrifying when you're talking about the leader of the most powerful country on the planet. But it's consistent. People that came out of that administration's first term said the same thing, that he's unpredictable. He doesn't read briefing papers. He'll bring out a Sharpie and go, I don't like this. And he'll just rewrite national policy on the fly. And it's just people around trying to just hopefully guide it in a sort of direction. That's terrifying for a country like New Zealand that is so exposed to the whims of the big players. Like, what if he decides that the trade war needs to go hot? You know, as a South Pacific nation, we should be concerned about that. We should also, like, you know, what's New Zealand going to do here? Like, I'm not surprised that Luxon and Nicola are just like, well, we just need to hold on and hope for the best. You know, I don't think that there's anything that those two could do to lessen this. You know, I don't think they would convince him one way or the other. I don't think they have the political ability or the power to do that. He doesn't give a shit about New Zealand. We just have to hold on and weather the storm. But I did notice a trend of people referring to the death of Trump as the thing that we all hope happens this year.
I don't see how it couldn't possibly happen in the next, like, there's no way he's living it out for the next 4 years.
He's talking about another term. He thinks he's up for it.
Don't know. I mean, he's losing his mind, and he's probably already lost his health, but it's whether or not, you know, I don't know. He's not doing enough of the actual presidency part of being a president to actually age like most presidents do, working their asses off. Like he's playing golf every other weekend.
The weight of what he does. Like
he
saw
doesn't
that
give a
with
shit.
Obama. Like Obama literally going grey within 3 months of him being in the White House was crazy.
Biden in 4 years lost his brain because he was already old.
His entire brain.
And he actually kind of was doing the work. And just sludge, just kind of like the Egyptians.
Or, alternatively, when you're talking about Biden, at least the people around Biden were doing the work.
Yeah. And they were following his agenda. Yeah. Well, I suppose it's the same thing.
It's again, like I think of the scandals. Like I remember people, right-wing commentators in the US getting real angry about Obama wearing a tan suit to a press conference was just unpresidential and just an insult to everyone. But they're willing to let Trump get away with, like they brought home 4 soldiers that died on an exercise in Lithuania the other day. It's something that they call a dignified transfer. Is when they bring the bodies home, and traditionally, like a president would be there to honor their sacrifices. They're unloaded from the plane with the caskets with the flags on them and taken to a military cemetery. Trump chose to golf that day. Like if a Democratic president did that, like Fox would be running that 24/7 for 3 weeks. Apparently it's fine. President's got to have some time off.